Somebody had a question in the Coreldraw forums on how to deal with the interior parts of some fonts. I'm suspecting that they wanted to make some kind of a stencil, and that when they cut out the lettering here that the interior pieces were falling away. Perhaps they're doing vinyl cutting or something like that. Not really sure. But anyway, one way to deal with this issue is to type out the font or the words in the font that you want. And then what we need to do is break that apart. And you could either use Control K to break a word into individual letters, or a sentence into individual words first and then into individual letters. And Control K will do that. You could also, after that step, you need to convert into curves, and Control Q does that. So now we have a curve shape there, no connection to the original font. This is still a Myriad Pro Black letter. Control Q, Control Q. You could go back a step here and just convert everything to curves in one shot like that. And now they're all curves. You can see by double clicking on them that we have nodes involved. Alright, so what you could do is simply create a rectangle. Maybe, depends how thick you need it, depending on the size of whatever it is you're working with. You can maybe center it in there a little better. And you could trim into the shape using that rectangle. And up on your property bar, you can just simply left click on it and then move it over. And so now you'd have a piece that would trim better. You can see how this wasn't perfectly centered there. So what I might do is zoom in on it just to have a better look at what's going on. Maybe nudge it a little bit there. And shift select the curved letter A, trim into it, move this over to here perhaps, same thing, and maybe over onto the 8, trim again. In fact, I trimmed so much that I'll just hit Control Z there to go back a step. I've assigned a shortcut key to it on my top left of my keyboard. You can see that it just has a number 3 there by the word trim, by the tooltip that you may see popped up. So for example, I'd select the rectangle, shift select the 8, and press the 3 key on my top left of my keyboard. So I'm just going to get rid of that rectangle. Looks like there was some kind of an issue there with the bottom of the 8. And that would be because my rectangle wasn't quite long enough. I'm just going to drag it down a little more, press 3, hit Control X, and now we have something that could be cut with a vinyl cutter. And the interior pieces, which are technically called counters, the same way you would spell countertop, it's called a counter inside there, would now not fall away after weeding with a vinyl cutter. So while we're here, sometimes you can press Control A on a curve and reduce the nodes on it. I cleaned up a couple of nodes there. Control A, we have a bunch of extra nodes here that could probably disappear as soon as I press this button. It just simplifies the shape a little bit, makes it faster for cutting with a vinyl cutter, etc. One thing you could do to round off some of the tips here, if you wanted to, is just select the shape, launch live fillet, and let's see what's happening here. This is way too much. I'm just going to go down to there, 0.01. I'm going to save that as an increment. You can see what's happening here. As we go to a very low amount, increase that, it's kind of rounding off those sharp tips like that. How about on this one? Again, it's too much. We're just going to go really low on it. Something like that. Let's save this value here just by doing that. Hit apply. Go over here, live fillet, hit apply. And so it's just kind of rounded it off so it's easier to weed perhaps with a vinyl cutter, and helps prevent peeling later on after it's applied to a vehicle perhaps, or a sign.